Part of my obsessions as an artist are vernacular photographs, photographs we use in everyday settings, family album photographs. These are things I grew up being a part of my life in my home, but also became a sort of conceptual obsession for how we sort of form ideas of ourselves, how we construct our identity, and how we assert sort of a sense of self-determination, specifically as Black people. My name is Tyler Mitchell, and the title of my exhibition here at the High Museum of Art is Idyllic Space. Yeah, and I went to the space, and it was nice to revisit it to like envision now like the layout we've been talking about, because I was like, oh, okay, that'll go there, and that'll, and then I was really picturing it, which felt good. I started as a fashion photographer, as an editorial photographer, doing commissions for a range of magazines, and that really allowed me to have a conversation with contemporary culture, but also to imbue the social and personal values and aesthetic values that I have as an artist into the editorial world. Being from Atlanta, Georgia, the southern landscape is embedded deeply in my memory. It's a place that it has both meditative aspects and aspects of deep disquiet because of the history here, right? The work almost functions off of these memories. It sort of responds to them. It draws out a lot of the emotions that were layered deep within them and tries to have a conversation really about who the land is for, what it's for, who it's been for in the past, and really take up these ideas also within an art historical canon of what we haven't always seen. I think that some of my very early portraits were often of young Black men, either friends or people in my community or casted individuals, and it was always about sort of projecting or creating an image that I would sort of like to see in the world more of. It was often about this idea of ease. It was always very preoccupied with just the gesture that the luxury to not need to be hyper-vigilant in public space is one that is sort of under-considered and underappreciated, and something that historically has not been granted to young Black men.
Because I realize it's like in my face.
It's super low.
Yeah.
We also need to slide it that way.
Yeah.
And I can basically trim equal from the top and the bottom, which will then make the whole thing go up.
So Laundry Line being an installation piece, it's sort of quite fluid in terms of how we always hang it, how we install it. It's always very site specific. It's some 50 photographs that are printed with dye sublimation or UV printing onto fabric. And it always fascinates me installing it because it's sort of a living, breathing piece. The wind that blows by one of the fabrics hanging in the space may adjust how a viewer sees it. It also sort of is alive in that way with people walking past it. And I want that experience with photography as much as I want photography as a sort of formally framed object. I wanted to make a project around depicting the 30 or so families that I grew up in sort of loose network with. They're all families that were in an organization I grew up in called Jack and Jill. It's a Black sort of social and youth group that does a lot of things, but has a particular dimension to it that is about ceremony and is about cotillion and is about sort of formal dress. And I was always very fascinated by that. And so in photographing these 30 families, I've made a work titled Altar 7, Repose, which is almost a pavilion-like structured photographic sculpture in which my portraits of these 30 families live. You see families posing together, looking at each other intimately, holding one another. And you also see a sort of slice of Black identity that exists here in the South. I'm thinking a lot more about photography as a material, as an object, where the tactility, where the physical experience, the body sort of circumnavigating an object becomes just as paramount to the content within the frame of the photograph. It's just kind of beyond a dream, really. I mean, I have to say, like, the High Museum is, you know, the museum I grew up going to. It's the art museum I grew up going to. It also played a role in opening my worldview. To have my work here within these halls, to have my work being a sort of cross-departmental effort between the contemporary and the photography department, to have my practice be understood, to be held, to be engaged with, to be sustained is just beyond a dream.